So you're at to Glory Be to God Sports,
Yes,
and
to God be the glory. To God be the glory. Sports. Yes.
so tell us about that in and of itself, and tell us your experience with George from a sports standpoint, because you were very passionate on that dais on Tuesday.
Well, to God be the glory. Sports has always been about trying to encourage young men to have spiritual growth and grow in spiritual wisdom while they seek to, pursue their maximum potential in the area of sports. Activities. George Floyd was in the program. George Floyd was one of the first members of our NCAA exhibition tour team that tours around the USA, preparing college teams for their regular season games. So that's how I came to know Big Floyd, and he spent a lot of time with us, and at the end of every practice there's devotion time that we spent reading Bible scriptures and the Proverbs, like I said at the funeral, reading the Proverbs specifically. And we do that with all the young men just so they can have some practical wisdom going forward in life. It's not so churchy, it's more
Gotcha.
like practical wisdom. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that and so this was one thing that I have seen is how much grace the Floyd family has shown throughout. And you would say George was right up there as far as how graceful he was and the way he carried himself. Would you agree?
I that's for as tough and tragic of a situation it was. I certainly agree with you. The Floyd family has been extremely graceful. The lights have been on full blast, media coverage around the clock, and ancillary involvement through all of the protests around the world. Um, it's been a tough situation, even with me.
Sure.
I'm not a family member, and I just felt how emotionally drained I felt on Wednesday. Just so tired. It was
Mm,
like just a big letdown after the final burial.
right. And I've got to ask you, how did they come to you to say, hey, can you say a few words? What was your connection with the family itself, leading up to all of the memorial?
Well, his nephew Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams, we call him Lil Woo.
Okay.
So, when everything happened, you saw Brandon Williams. He spoke, very eloquently at the service that was in Minneapolis for 3 minutes. But, when it all happened, I called, I got his number and I called and he answered the phone. He said, man, I haven't been answering any phone numbers that
Mm,
I didn't know the number. It's like it's been crazy. People been calling me so much. And he was like, man, I got your number in the phone. I got your number in my phone for a reason. He was
mm.
like, man, Floyd was crazy about that team, you know, and even he always wanted me to keep up with you because Brandon Williams, Lil Woo, he was an athlete also.
Okay.
He played high level. He went to state with Jack Yates in basketball.
Wow.
So we're all bonded through sports.
Well, and I've
So
got
I want to answer. I didn't quite answer the question. I want to wrap it up with that.
sure.
So it's like, hey, we know how much time Floyd spent with To God Be the Glory, and you were somewhat a pastor to him. You were a spiritual leader to him in that way, sitting him down, advising him to, partake in the scriptures, adopt this type of spiritual ideology. Like, yeah, man, you got 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes to speak on that.
And obviously, people watching were so moved, and I'm moved that you want to join me tonight. Let me ask you this: so, your story and what you're planning on doing with the memorial complex, we'll get into that in a second. But I've got to be honest; it's one of the most positive things that have come out of this because we've seen the riots happen, we've seen all the negative coverage, and yet here you are going on the stage on Tuesday in the midst of all of this, giving really a positive message and a positive way to honor George. Why don't you talk about that?
Man, thank you. To God be the glory. I always like to say I'm the unquenchable optimist, and we have to find a way to turn this tragedy into triumph.
Mm,
I really want to be a part of the solution. As a consultant, as a project management guy, with to God be the glory, that has to always be responsible for some logistic or coming up with a plan or a solution. That's just what came to me. Like, I need to be a part of
mm.
that helps fix this problem. I need to do something. And I've been bridging the gap for so long for young men between the projects and impoverished communities and opportunities to be in college or opportunity. I've been bridging the gap in different ways for a long time. And so when they killed Floyd like this, when I saw them kill my man like that,
Mm.
more than the hatred and the anger and stuff, more than all of that, because I want to lead with love. I was like, I got to do something, man. How can I be a constructive way to fix this problem? And so I said, well, I can try to bring people together through sports programs, the police departments, law enforcement, mixing them with groups that don't socialize with. It's going to be some planning. Now, it's not just as simple as meeting at the complex and playing some games. It's got to have some conversations. Some
Dialogue.
preparation has to be had on both sides. Yeah, when we
Well,
bring this thing together, when we got the cops against the hood, we mixing these teams. So
mm.
you can, yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I think that's what's missing. Is there's not much talk about them mixing. There's more like we need to get rid of it entirely, and I don't think that's the answer either. Would you agree that that movement has just totally eradicated what the memory of George Floyd should be? Because that's really now taken the center stage from the actual incident itself.
What do you mean, as far as the defunding of the
Yeah,
police
I mean,
department?
because that became the new chant, and then it still takes away from what Floyd's memory should have. He should be remembered through all this, and they've turned it into something else now, I feel.
Whew. You know, I think it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction in the sense of what you're saying. I think the underlying sentiment is that they know that there needs to be some change, and they want to represent that they want to be quick about bringing about a change. The talks that today have been and yesterday have been that defunding may not be the correct verbiage to use to describe what's actually going to go on there. But again, the underlying sentiment is that there needs to be change, and that the change needs to come swiftly.
Cyril, you're very active now. You're going to start really building the dialogue between the cops and our communities. Do you think some people are afraid to do that entirely? Is that why, or do you think there are more out there that we're not hearing from that do want that dialogue?
I had this conversation earlier trying to break down the percentage. I was like, what percentage do you think really are just racist to the core? And, what other do you think are maybe just not necessarily racist? They just don't really have a platform to interact with other ethnic groups, because it's very easy for people to just socialize with people who are the same. That's a hard question to answer, though. Like, I really don't know. But what I do know is that in order for real change to come about, there has to be some uncomfortable conversations.
I
People are
agree.
going to have to get, it's just like when you losing weight. That's an ugly transition when you're dropping those pounds. It's some painful moments. But, or like birthing a baby.
Yeah.
People love the birth of the baby, but that mom was screaming and hollering in that delivery
Yeah.
room. So
Yep.
there have to be some moments right now that, everybody is going to have to be able to just take a look in the mirror and say, if I really want to, the least I can do is be humble and lay down my pride and have a
Sure.
conversation.
And here in New York, we've just repealed 50A, which would be allowing more research into who's complaint loads and the case loads. And I think that's a huge issue now. Is like, why aren't we doing a better review of that, right? That's kind of a talking point that should be talked about more, actually.
About the what?
About the, case loads and reviewing complaints on certain cops. I mean, that's a story in of itself. So I'm sure you would say that's a huge step forward in this dialogue we want to have.
Yeah, one thing, I was talking to a respiratory therapist in the case of George Floyd,
Okay.
and you talk about caseload, and you talk about just the due diligence of the law enforcement agent, and she just brought up a point about the forensic matter, about just to proving the intent that it should be first degree murder and not second degree murder, based on her practice as a respiratory practitioner. And she was even willing to write a forensic report about this. And this is an independent outside source.
Right.
If you really want to invest and give due respect to the family, especially in a case like George Floyd,
Yes,
be honest about the autopsy. Don't say that the guy had hypertension. There's a lot of people walking around with hypertension right now. They just don't have a knee on their neck, so they can still breathe.
That's very true. Yeah. No, you're right. And by the way, I was saying Minnesota shouldn't look at their own report. They need to look at the independent report that actually the family had organized, right? They got the independent examiner organized and look what it showed,
I knew it was going to be fishy from the start. It's interesting. What's so interesting is how the protection of the police officers for something that everyone else in the world sees as murder. What's interesting is the degree that that the government is going to protect these gentlemen, the only difference between them and a civilian is the uniform that they wear every day. And It's amazing that one now here, let's talk about uniform. Give me a second to talk about uniform. Uniform. There are many different uniforms. UPS guy wears a uniform, right? The guy that drive for FedEx, he wears a uniform. LeBron James, he wears a uniform, right? Lamar Jackson, he wears a uniform. Mm-hmm. No other uniform can protect you from murder charges the way a police uniform can.
So true. Cyril, why then is there a dumb petition going out?
The uniform.
Yeah, go ahead.
Say it again.
No, go ahead. Sorry, because I see you were in the middle of something, but it cut in and out. So say what you're going to say again, just so we get it on tape.
No, everything was fine. Everything was fine. I think somebody tried to message in, but it's okay.
Hey, Cyril, this is important, and you mentioned the first degree versus second degree. I heard that if it's a first degree, he gets off easier or something. I don't know, but they need to keep it at second degree for true justice, right?
I don't know if I can just say right to that. I don't know. Like I said, they got Ben Crump. They got some very smart attorneys that's gonna not leave any stone unturned. And they're gonna cross every T and dot every I. And so I know that they want to get full justice for the family. And, not only because George Floyd deserves it and all the other innocent people who were wrongfully murdered, they all deserve it. But also just, the world is watching. And I think Ben Crump, as an attorney on this world stage, he wants to show his competence. He wants to show how good of a lawyer he is right now, too. So he's not going to let him off the hook.
Well, let's pray not. Now, at to Glory Be to God Sports, have you ever had, incidents with police within the community, or how has that interaction been with the sports complex and cops?
I haven't had any conflict with the police as far as what to God be the glory sports. Everything has been smooth. I'm very thankful. I can only think of, I had a personal incident where You know, I was on the side of the road. I was actually parked on the side of the road texting, and some cops pulled up on me and told me that they pulled up on me and came and pulled out guns and ran up on my car with guns and said, "Hey, what are you doing here? This is a high drug area." I was in front of a park. I was parked in front of a basketball court. You know, I just got through playing golf. I'm sitting there in a golf sweater, and you know, they took me out of the car, handcuffed me, digging in my pockets. They pulling out golf tees and stuff like that. And you know, it's telling me, "Hey, man, well, you know, they got the pistol on me. They got the guns on me."
Mm.
I'm just standing there. I'm like, "What?" Like, they searched my car. "Oh man, you in a high drug area. What you doing over here? Who you know over here?" Man, I live in Houston. I know everywhere. Like, I got the right to be where I want to be. I'm driving what? Like,
Mm.
so.
Well, that's and so with what you're doing, how would you approach the cops now? Like, how are you hoping to get that dialogue going? And what would you say to them in Houston and other police forces around the country? What would you say to them
Well,
if
you
you
know, the good thing that, you know, I'm very thankful to have the relationships I do in the city, to know people in city council, right? To have, you know, somewhat of a relationship with the mayor here,
Mhm.
and just, you know, my position as a businessman, I know some people where I can be heard in a different way.
Mm.
And that's the whole thing. I want just to be the bridge to be a voice for the voiceless, those in the projects, those who aren't in a position to articulate
Mm.
their concerns. So I'm the guy that's going to go forward and fill these gaps. And, you know, I just know that this is something that will honor Floyd's memory, because I got to loosen up these people.
Yeah.
And like I told
Yep.
you, like I said earlier, it's gonna be a process. It's gonna be a process. So the whole while we working on uh, fundraising and construct Floyd, the whole while we're doing that, we're gonna start this prep process with the police
Mm.
departments and
That's
start getting that part of dialogue going about how are we when we do the ribbon cutting and the grand opening at this place, what is going to be the program that we kick off that we can say this is going to be the first thing that we're doing that bring the police department and these areas together,
mm.
you know. But that's the path we on.
Did Floyd come back to Houston often? And did you saw him as he got into adulthood? Like, you'd see him, and did he ever? How often did he come visit once out of the program?
You know, here's the thing, you know, I'm in China, so, you know, I'm always in China. So I'm in and out of the country myself. So there's a big summer league in Houston, the Pro-Am. It goes like in June, July, and August. Everybody goes because a bunch of NBA players come in and
Hmm.
play. Everybody go down. That's the hangout. Every now and then, every summer or so, I catch him down. He come back and being, you know, hanging with his boys, and I catch him down at the gym, and you know that be
That's
our
awesome.
catch up time.
Uh,
Or I might catch a player on the phone with him. I'm like, man, I got Big Floyd on the phone. Man, give me the phone. Hey Floyd, what's going on, man? Da, 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 da. You know, in that way. So I worked with so many guys we grew over the years, but it's a big family to me.
well, this is that's great. And is there a memorial right now? Like, is there any uniform of his that was hanging in the gym prior to this? Like, did you guys honor him before, while he was a student, or after he left?
Actually, like I said, since he was on the very first NCAA exhibition team, he was on the first team. That picture has been hanging in the gym at the church where we used to practice since that time. Since
Mm.
it's never come down. So when ABC News came over the first day, I mean, we took him right to the photo. It was just hanging on the wall there, you know, for
Mm.
all the guys. So, you know, and that's what's thinking about that. Like, what will we do? You know, so just some of, you know, I definitely want to have a jersey for him inside of the gym.
What
You
was
know,
his
how
number?
we'll do the football field for the question number 8, like Kobe.
Okay. Wow.
Number eight,
Wow.
number 8, like Kobe. Yep.
What a
That,
that
that's it.
tragedy set off.
When he played tight end, he played tight end in high school. He was number 88. And you know, with me being in China all the time, China, the good luck number is 8. Did you know that, right?
I think so, but you just reminded me, so thank you for that. That's
The
interesting. So
number,
you,
the number, the good, because it's like 2 circles. Yeah.
well, let's say, so would you say in the number itself, like from the number to his affect, to his being, he was very intentional with what he wanted to do to make life good for himself, right? I mean, he was very intentional in his life.
I just say Floyd had a very good heart, man. That the heart was good. That's what I mean. Like, to me, his legacy is seeing me in 1998 at age 23 when I set out to start my exhibition team. That means I'm putting up my players, I'm calling the coaches, I'm setting the contracts. I have to produce a team
Yes.
that's good enough that a college coach will say, okay, we'll play you, right?
Mm.
He was willing to say, all right, see, I'm down with you, man. I'll be there. I got you, bro. Because he was my biggest guy. So when I talked to the coach, like, who you got? I got Big George Floyd. You got Floyd? Oh, okay, we got you. You can play. Come on, come on. So, like, he added value to the product I was presenting. Then, not only that, see, man, I know this other guy playing this league. I'm trying to get him to come practice with us. He can do this. He can do this. He bringing other guys over so they can come get involved. Like I said, some of those guys got scholarships to college. Some of those guys went to China to play on tour with me. I saw one guy today at the voting drive. He said, man, you saved my career. He said, man, I went to China with you. He said, after that, my whole career for the next 3 years.
Look at that. Hey, I know you and I have a familiar connect on LinkedIn, Jason Curry. I love the guy. What is your experience with him?
I just know he's working in the journalism industry. I don't really know him that well. We just connected on LinkedIn because of our mutual interest in sports.
Because he was actually NBA coach, something with the Knicks coach of the
year.
Right,
yeah, junior coach of the year. Mm-hmm, yep.
So we have that, and I've known him through Queens College as well. So I know this big thing is going to be coming up, and you have a very unique way to do it. So what can people do to help you with this memorial fund and with this memorial complex?
I appreciate that. I've already built a sports complex in Houston before. So that's why this is nothing new. I've already done this. I got a piece of real estate in 2004. I put a $2.5 million complex on it. It's still, of course, it's still there. It operates at the church and sports complex right now. So with this, I got some property. It's got the land. You can go to tgbtgsports.com and you can make a donation to the construction of the vertical improvements. I also want people that not just making cash donations, but I want people to submit some partnership proposals to me. People that want to say, hey, Steve White, we want to do this. We want to say we want to do this for the football field and give you this for maintenance. Because this is something I want the world to participate in sustaining, and to God be the glory. We just manage the project. This is not something that I'm looking to have any strain in doing, because the benefit of this place is the benefit of humanity. So tgbtgsports.com, that's the website. You can go there, find out about George Floyd, what he did with us, all of our other programming and wonderful things we do. And that's one way you can get down and support us. I appreciate you asking that.
So are you connected? You mentioned the mayor of Houston. Are you connected with Gov Abbott? Has he been supportive of what you're doing as well?
I have not met the Governor Abbott. I've known Mayor Sylvester Turner since 2002, just from other business. And, he was always involved in the Houston business and political scene prior to becoming the mayor. So I met him very young in my quest in business in Houston. So that's how I've known him for quite a while.
Do you think when they were protesting in honor of George, I also felt the story of him and the way he was coming back in his life was really hidden. You really had to find that. So Did you wish that more people knew who he was while they were chanting his name?
This is why I'm so adamant about going on podcasts like this and speaking to whoever wants to hear about the humanity of George Floyd, that I did spend my college summers with him. As I said at the funeral, I did go pick him up, and we go basketball court to basketball court, and putting our coins together, buying Gatorade, and splitting 3-piece chicken wings together. I did do this with Floyd, and we did go around. So people just don't just see this guy with his knee on his neck. People don't understand, like, okay, Cyril White, to God be the glory sports. Look him up. Google Cyril White. Look at everything that comes up with China. Everywhere I've been in China, my whole career in China, all that derived from the first year with George Floyd. That was the foundational year with all this touring stuff I'm doing now. So it's just hard for me to push that out when I understand where it all comes from. I can't just push that out. Like, I know everybody that's in that 1998 picture with George Floyd, all them guys, they mean something to me, man.
Man, it's amazing that you talk about 98, because that was Jordan's last dance. And I feel like there's all of a sudden a connection to what he did to what you guys were doing.
Wow. Yeah, he was definitely leaving basketball to start a new chapter of his life. And I was certainly starting a new chapter of mine, because I had no idea that it would lead to this whole China thing and everything that China has been for To God Be the Glory sports. I had no idea. I was just doing the next thing in front of me.
When you go over there with these guys, what's the reaction like in China when you go over and take your team over there to play?
Oh man, they love us. We're the American rock star basketball team. And usually when I come into China, we're playing against some Chinese pro team, and they may fly over another pro team from Poland or Russia or just Cuba. They'll fly over another team and have them touring around with us, playing, city to city, and the fans are just rabid. Every game sold out.
I've got to ask this then, because in your area, you had a GM of the Rockets tweet against them, and they got pretty mad, and the NBA did too. So you're dealing with China a different way. You see this Rockets guy tweet this. What was your thought? Do you think they have a right to voice their displeasure still?
Who, the China? Everybody's got a right. Everybody's got a right to voice their displeasure, right? Everybody's got a right to, but you don't necessarily have a say so as to what happens once you say something, and it's just best to exercise wisdom and discretion, at all times. You can say what you want to say whenever you want to say it, right?
Right.
I got to ask you, and here's what's interesting. I was flying on the plane to China at the time when Maury did this. So I was about to land in Shanghai to get ready to go to the VIP reception with it was the Lakers and the Nets.
Okay.
And by the time the plane landed in Shanghai, the guy hit me. He was like, they canceled the reception tonight. There is no reception because of Maury's tweets. I'm like, what? So the driver gets me. We're going to the hotel. I'm seeing workers around Shanghai just tearing down the NBA billboards off the sign of they're taking down all the billboards and everything around. So by the time I get to the hotel, everybody's just like in this purgatory, like, are we even going to play the game tomorrow? It was a big mess, man.
COVID-19, were you in China at all during those scares, or were you home here in Houston?
I got right out. I was over on a project dealing with some factories. I do different sourcing projects, and I was trying to get this prototype finished. I got back to my spot. They started talking about it. They said somebody died. I said, when is the next flight home?
And you took
I
it.
got
obviously.
out of there. So there was a lot of players that were still there, though, you hear me? Because basketball leagues going on, tournaments going on. I'm like, hey guys, we might need to seek higher ground and like see why I can't leave this money at the table. Like it's not worth dying over. I'm out.
Mm.
And so by the time I got home, they started restricting flights. And one guy he got the last domestic flight they let out of there direct to go to the USA.
Wow. Did you ever? No one. I mean, no one expected it. But how crazy! We were actually having a calm during COVID. Then this a-hole cop kneels Floyd to death, and it becomes another crisis. But um, it was rather peaceful till then. It's just unbelievable how things change right in a minute.
I think it was all for a reason. I definitely think my brother George Floyd, I think he was definitely sacrificed for the good of humanity. I think he was just taken out. And, it's not, listen, he was innocent
Mm-hmm.
of anything that warranted him death at that moment. And he represents the innocence of humanity. If anyone submits themselves to people who are sworn to protect and serve you and they end up getting killed, that's what he represents. That's what Floyd represents. And that's why people are so upset and so angry and so dismissive of anything that someone would try to say against his character or the person he was, because you just can't do that to anybody,
Right.
And we got to continue to carry the positive. I'm so thrilled to see that so many people are disgusted by that action, man. That gives me so much hope that there's a chance for us to really come together, because so many people are just saying, no, that's just not right.
No, it's not. And I was just thinking about this as we're doing this Zoom. We've got the NBA doing a Zoom about how they're going to have their message. So I'm interested to see what they do. Are you involved with any NBA guys? Like, have you coached any of them? Have they come to the center for different things?
Absolutely. I've had all kinds of guys. To God be the glory sports. I have a network of friends. I know pretty much guys on most of the teams. If they're not doing something athletically,
Mm-hmm.
as far as training, and I may have some private business venture going. But yeah, definitely to God be the glory is involved for NBA players.
Cyril, I don't know if you've been interviewed by the mainstream media. Have you at all, or have you had any interaction with them?
I've been featured in the Wall Street Journal back
Okay,
in
good.
2013, and I've been in the New York Times a few times. I mean, I've I've done my rounds. I've been doing To God Be the Glory Sports for a long time. So, I'm here to do my thing and keep my head down. But again, I won't shy away when some light is shined this way.
Because I feel like we shouldn't be concerned about what's going on in Seattle. We shouldn't be concerned about the rioters. We need to have a bigger focus, and I think you get that, and you're channeling that bigger focus. Why aren't others following suit? Like, why can't the media cover something that you're doing to a better level than they could?
You know what? I said that today. I was like, I really need 10 minutes on CNN. If you look on the George Floyd link that's on tgbtgsports.com, I have all of the different media interviews that I've done the past couple of weeks in regards to that. And the different media outlets, they range from different places, right? And
Mm.
I do think that To God Be the Glory needs more exposure and just to more. I know I'm doing my thing at the level where I am, and
Mm.
that's what I'm saying. I'm going to continue to make an impact where I am. I'm going to continue to make a ripple. The more people come and join and accept the ideology and the way we want to operate, the more pockets of the country that we can affect.
I've asked this question to both, white people and people of color. I've talked to people on both sides. These influential movements, Blackout Tuesday, are they really helping, or are they just sort of showing people as sort of a bandwagon, or we get what you're going through, but we really don't? I mean, we can't go know what you guys what goes through in those situations daily.
I appreciate that question. I appreciate that. Um, I'm about that action, man. I'm about that action. I'm about that. I'm about that action. Like, I don't need to change my picture to. I mean, I'm not saying anything against that. So if anybody's listening, I'm not trying to offend you or tell you what not to do. But what I'm saying is, I went out and I got 3 acres of land to build a George Floyd sports complex. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna change my picture. I'm gonna go figure out what can I do and put some boots on the ground and actually do something. Now I get it. People want to show that they binding together, but again, I'm about that action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get out in the field and I'm gonna go out and actually do something. So more power to you if that's what you want to do to show solidarity. I'm not against it, but I'm just a little bit more proactive than that.
Yeah, and you're on this podcast, which is proof in the pudding that you're able to get out. You want to get out there, and you want to spread this message you have. And I want to turn now to the $20 because when you told me this in LinkedIn, I was very moved by what you want to do with the symbolic $20 that I don't even think should be leading to someone's death. I don't think that even the guy should have called the cops on him. I don't know. It just in this time of fragility, why do that to begin with?
That's a great question. That was almost like a death sentence in itself to make that call. Yeah, but the $20 for Big Floyd, there are a lot of people that just want to do something. I know everyone's not a big corporation. Everyone doesn't have, dollars earmarked like these corporations are shelling out right now. And people have been hit hard financially by COVID. I get that too. But we wanted everybody, all the new donors who are just learning about To God Be the Glory Sports, but you want to be involved with this George Floyd thing, just donate $20 for Big Floyd. Donate $20 for Big Floyd, just to symbolize everybody's got $20 to blow. And $20 is not a big deal, and it's certainly not worth a man's life. So, if you can do more, do more. But I understand the times that we're in. A lot of people are trying to recover. You want to just be connected to the project. Just give $20 for Big Floyd. TGBTGsports.com.
Have you connected with anybody in New York? I know I'm in New York, but have you connected with anybody else in New York to talk about this and to partner with?
I've had a few calls from New York. Actually, I was talking to a gentleman earlier today who wants to connect me to his pastor. And then I also got a call from a couple of people in New York from the basketball community that saw me speak and was wanting to know more about getting involved with the basketball program. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love.
I've gotten calls from all over. Yeah.
I love that because I've been involved with the New York college basketball thing with Queens College. I went to like when they were at the Garden. So I mean, we've got a community at Queens College in of itself that's totally in love with the basketball, and they do what they can to support it. And I love that. So it's good that you're getting connects up here.
Right.
I don't know. This conversation can go on forever because there's so much to unpack, right? I mean, this isn't just a one-time combo; it's a continued conversation.
Yeah, it's an art, and it's not gonna happen overnight. We didn't get to this point overnight. I'm very realistic about the goals that I can achieve, and I'm very calculated about the timeline in which they can be achieved on. One of my favorite coaches growing up, he had something he used to say to me: quick, but don't hurry. As fast as possible, but never in a rush. That's To God Be the Glory way right there. That's To God Be the Glory way.
Thank God you have been able to do this. You haven't had your place, looted or however you want to say. But for those business owners who have had those issues, what is your message to them that they can rebound from this?
Well, the first thing is I hope you had good insurance. This will give you a wonderful opportunity to use insurance that we never get to use. True. And don't let the insurance companies duck you. And if you have problems with that, you need to call To God Be the Glory Sports too, because my office is inside of a law firm, and we won't let you get ducked by the insurance companies. So,
Have you seen any reports of
but
that lately,
in
or anybody?
regards to George, what
Have you
reports
seen
on
any
what?
insurance issues with some of your friends that might have been
No, but
affected?
I haven't heard of anything like that. But I know that that's something that could happen. I
Yep.
mean, just think about COVID. Think about all the people that filed COVID lost claims, and then the insurance found a way to weasel out and say, "Oh, virus wasn't covered in your business loss protection package." I mean, what a great time to say that, right? Now, they have a lot of commas and semi-commas about what's actually covered and stuff in those policies. But man, what a gray area.
Especially because everybody was rushing to try and get something, and I don't think they fully thought out how to do this. But you were going to say something about George. I wanted to let you say that. Sorry about
Right.
interrupting there.
About what? About
About
George?
George, yeah, you were going to say
Oh
something.
yeah, and the riots and the looting. Like I said, George was 6'7", 230 pounds, big guy. He had a whole lot of opportunities to go around breaking out glass and vandalizing property if that's what he wanted his legacy to be, because he was a big guy. He didn't do that. That's not how he lived his life. So that does not represent him. And also, he had several opportunities to resist that arrest on the day he was murdered if he really wanted to resist an arrest. He didn't even go down swinging and fighting. He went down as a man of peace.
Mm.
But just because he went down as a man of peace does not mean that he don't want justice and that he doesn't deserve justice. It doesn't mean that he thought his life was worthless to
Right.
just give up his own life. He was trying to be compliant
He was.
with people who are supposed to protect and serve him and not murder him callously for the world to see. Let me say this. Let me say this too. I don't like to ramble much, especially I like dialogue. My friends around the world, good brother, my friends
Mm.
are asking me, what is going on with the USA cops, Cyril? Is it safe for me to come from China to America to visit? Do cops treat all people who aren't white like this? I'm getting some crazy questions because the world is watching right now.
Yeah. Yep. They really are. And by the way, I don't know if you want to react, but Minneapolis just voted the city council voted to disband the entire police department. And I know they had a lot of questions. Could we be seeing that moving forward?
Whew, that's tough. Like I said, I know that we need change. I know that change needs to come. I know that something different has to happen. But, they got a lot of smart people in the room. They really need to make a wise decision and be sure that whatever the alternative is better than what they're doing right now. And, listen, this is a very knee-jerky, very volatile situation. People just want somebody to act right now. Do something. Do something. But you got to be sure you're doing the right thing. And I'm just not so sure. I'm not so sure.
This really impacted America, the way he was killed. And I would say the way, because it seems like America didn't flinch when Eric Garner was choked to death and thrown on the ground. That wasn't garnering enough of a reaction. And yet it looked pretty violent in and of itself. And here in New York, you hear "I Can't Breathe," you think of that moment in Staten Island.
Right. Right. Absolutely. It was like a repeat thing. And like I said, I was like, we are just branding, we're brand ambassadors for our death. Like this whole "I can't breathe," and you go, you get killed and murdered in the street, and then people go make $1 million off of "I Can't Breathe" campaign. Like, damn, I got killed off of this. You're gonna go commercialize my tragedy, commercialize my horror. It's just pitiful. And then the way the media can run with it. Well, yeah, Eric Garner said it, and now George Floyd said it. I mean, two black guys, they both said "I can't breathe." Like, it's just like almost like it give the media a story. Like, we know we're gonna get a bunch of mad black people watching the story, and then we're gonna also get a bunch of people to buy these shirts and say "I can't breathe," because they think people are gonna read the shirt and actually give a damn. A shirt is not gonna make people give a damn, man.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you think the the sympathy and sort of the empathy that is coming from white people in America, do you think, not that it's fake, but that it's like, why weren't you here with us earlier type of thing?
Uh, Here's what, I am not about this black white race division at all. I don't even,
Good.
yeah, you listen to me. Yes, I do see color, but it don't matter to me. I see it because I lead with love, and I have a lot of great people in my life from all backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
walks of life. I did business deals. I got relationships. Hey man, I'm cool with all kinds of people. And I also know that, just because white people or certain people don't interact with black people all the time, that just don't make them racist or bald-faced racist. They just may not have the platform, or like I'm saying, the opportunity to connect and socialize because of where their worlds operate.
Right.
All I'm trying to do is be a part of this, bringing some people together. That's it. Like, because I know some of these white people and other nationalities that's coming out because Floyd was murdered. It's not like they just coming out the woodworks. It's like, people deal with the issues that's important to their life, man.
Right.
If I live in the suburbs, if I live in the suburbs and I got a job and kids and this is my life circle, and I'm not affected by black on black crime every day, that don't mean I don't like black people. That just means I'm not in that every day.
Right.
Why do I need to go stick my nose in that? That's not my life. But now when George Floyd got killed like that, that became everybody's life all at once. Like, because again, he represented the innocence of a person
Sure.
that submits themselves to law enforcement, and that could be anybody.
So on that line of thinking, then you understand, I guess, because I understood why they wouldn't try and stop the guy kneeling, because those other cops would have knocked out someone who tried to intervene, and that's sickening. But do you wish at the end of the day someone did step in, or do you understand?
I do, man. I can't stop thinking about that. Like, I cannot stop thinking that. Like, it's always the what ifs. Man, like, that's it. Like, just somebody, just somebody, dog. Just say something. Like, I hate to say it like this. People will say, "Oh, this guy." See, I know this Cyril White was racist. I know this guy's trying to. But listen, if it was one white woman around there that just said, "Hey, knock it off," it would have got knocked off, man. You understand? And I'm not saying anything that's not true.
I got you. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because Amy Cooper just literally that same day had caused outrage when she threatened to call the cops on a guy in Central Park. I mean, it was just so strange how those two events were on the same day publicized. It was I don't know the synchronicity there, but there's something. And what would a lot of protesters scream and yell, and here you are, you're pretty calm, talking about this and want to find solutions. How can we calm people that are just ready to light a tinderbox, so to speak, and burn the place down because of this?
I think it really has a lot to do with people's natural temperament. I have a temperament towards being rational and being, like I said, solution oriented. Is just kind of the way I'm wired. I'm not the scream and holler. Like, I heard a phrase somewhere that revolutionized my thinking. It says, "Don't raise your voice, improve your argument."
Mm.
And that really got me to think about just that. Like, the better prepared your presentation and approach and strategy is, the more effective that you're going to be. All the screaming and hollering and stuff like that, I get it. I do want to say his name, George Floyd. Say his name,
George
George
Floyd.
Floyd. Yes, I want to say his name, George Floyd. People need to keep that in their mind. I do get that, but we got to have some paperwork behind the chance. We got to have
Yeah.
some things moving behind the chance to get something signed, get something in place, get something going. Or if not, it's just going to be silence once the chants are over. And I'm trying to make some noise, baby, some real noise.
Cyril, are you surprised that we didn't forget about George Floyd's death 2 days later? Because I find in a lot of these other incidences, it's like the media covers it for a few days and we all forget about it until, this one has stuck. And I think as horrible as I don't believe he wanted to die. I know he wanted
Yeah.
to live. He told them, I can't breathe. Can you get off me? And they just refused to get off him. But at the end of the day, this is like, it's sticking. Maybe this is finally a good thing that it's sticking for people everywhere.
Unforgettable. Who was the singer? Old school. Unforgettable.
Ella Fitzgerald, was it?
That's what that was. Yeah, my grandfather used to sing that. Unforgettable.
Oh, sorry, no, that was Cole. I forget her name.
Nat Cole. That's what this is.
Yeah, I think that's who that. Yeah.
Unforgettable. It just as unforgettable as that song is this incident. Unforgettable. You can't forget this, and it's almost like America can't be in a what's next mode. America has to be in a no more mode. Not what's next, but no more. And that's what we are right now. Like after that, it can be no more. It can be no more, And like I said, I'm going to do everything I can to honor George Floyd. And it's just really it's just really repurposed a lot of things, for me. And to God be the glory. Because as I said earlier in the show, I've always been building a bridge for guys for what I do, from college to the hood. I've always been a bridge builder. And now it's just a different type of bridge.
You mentioned the profiting off of them, the shirts and all that. So I've got to ask you this, the BLM movement, the All Lives Matter movement, what's your stance on that, if you don't mind me asking?
I think the importance of human life should not be reduced to slogan or chant. I think it should not be reduced to slogan or chant. I think that they are both equally divisive, however well-meaning they may be intended. Because you and I can both agree that neither one of those slogans is uniting people, correct?
That is very correct.
That's how I feel about it. It should not be reduced to slogan.
On that note, can you lead us out with a prayer? Because it sounds like you do have some pastoral background as well. So can you lead us out with a prayer on this day?
Thank you, man. I will pray for us. Thank you. God, thank you for this time tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this podcast. And just for the listeners tonight, I hope that something went out that was beneficial, something that was constructive, and something that was positive. I pray that the memory of George Floyd will be blessed throughout the world, that tragedy would be turned to triumph, and that everyone, Father, around the world will be changed and motivated to be better, do better, and love better because of it. Thank you for all good things. In your son's name, amen.
Amen. All right. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I think we are turning a corner and we're going to have a better energy out there. So let's work on it.
I appreciate it, man. And be sure to send your viewers, your listeners to tgbtgsports.com. Support the George Floyd Project. And thanks again for having me on.
That was Cyril White of tgsports.com. And to God be the glory over and over again. So we will talk to you soon, Cyril. Come back, will you?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Alex Garrett. We'll talk to you soon.